The belt made a sound she would never forget. Leather cutting through air in a five-star hotel suite. Then pain. She was 8 months pregnant. But what happened next? What happened when room service knocked on that door at exactly the wrong moment, or exactly the right one? That changed everything. This is the true story of Margaret Sullivan, a woman trapped in a nightmare marriage to a wealthy CEO, a man the world saw as perfect, successful, charming, generous. But behind closed doors, he was something else entirely. For 2 years, she hid the bruises, made excuses, stayed silent. Because who would believe her? Who would stand against a man with that much money, that much power, that many lawyers? But on their anniversary weekend in a platinum hotel suite, everything she had hidden was about to be exposed. Not because she planned it, but because her younger brother happened to be the one pushing the room service cart that night. What he saw through that door would set off a chain of events that would destroy a powerful man's empire, expose a pattern of violence spanning 15 years, and prove that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply tell the truth. This is her story. And if you or someone you know has ever felt trapped, ever felt powerless, ever wondered if escape was possible, you need to hear how it ends. Stay with me. Because this story, it is about something bigger than one woman and one abuser. It is about what happens when we finally stop protecting powerful men and start protecting the people they hurt. Let's begin. The belt made a sound she would never forget. Leather cutting through air. Then pain. Margaret Sullivan's back struck the hotel room wall. 8 months pregnant. The baby kicked inside her belly, hard, frightened, just like her mother. Elliot Chambers stood 6 feet away, his face twisted with rage, his expensive belt already in his hand. The silver buckle caught the light from the crystal chandelier above. This was not the first time, but it was the first time away from their carefully controlled home. The Platinum Suite at the Harrison Hotel, their anniversary weekend. The same hotel where he had proposed 3 years ago, back when Maggie still believed in fairy tales. Elliot's voice came out cold and measured, the tone that scared her most, not the yelling, the quiet fury underneath. "You embarrassed me," he said. "Do you understand what you have done?" Maggie pressed herself against the wallpaper. Her hands went to her belly automatically. Protective. The baby kicked again, harder this time. "I did not mean to," Maggie whispered. "I thought I was helping." The phone call had been simple. David Morrison, Elliot's business partner, calling about tomorrow's board meeting. Elliot was in the shower. Maggie answered, took a message. Apparently that was wrong. Everything was always wrong lately. "You thought," Elliot repeated, his voice dripped with contempt. "You never think that is the problem." He moved closer. The belt hung from his right hand. Maggie knew what came next. Had learned to read the signs over 2 years of marriage. The tightness in his jaw, the way his fingers flexed, the cold calculation in his eyes. "Elliot, please," she said, "the baby." "The baby will be fine," he replied. "You need to learn. How many times must I teach you?" The belt rose. Maggie's arm flew up, instinct overriding everything else. The leather struck her forearm first, fire across her skin. She bit back a scream. The second strike caught her shoulder. Her dress strap tore the blue silk he had bought her, the dress he had chosen for tonight. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on the suite door. "Room service." Elliot froze, the belt dangling from his right hand. Maggie crumpled between the king bed and the wall, cradling her belly, tears streaming down her face. His entire demeanor shifted, like flipping a switch. The rage vanished behind his public mask. "One moment," Elliot called out, his voice smooth, controlled, perfectly pleasant. The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. "Room service, I have your dinner order." Maggie's breath caught in her throat. That voice, she knew that voice. Her eyes went to Elliot. He was tucking the belt back through his pants loops, smoothing his hair, checking his reflection in the mirror above the desk, transforming back into the man the world saw, the successful chief executive officer, the philanthropist, the devoted husband. "Stay quiet," he said to Maggie, not a request, a command. Then he walked to the door, opened it with a welcoming smile. Ryan Sullivan pushed the room service cart into the suite. 26 years old, Maggie's younger brother, wearing the hotel uniform, black vest, white shirt, name tag pinned to his chest. His eyes scanned the expensive furnishings, the marble entryway, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Then his gaze found his sister. Time fractured into before and after. Maggie saw it happen on Ryan's face, the professional smile dying, his eyes widening, taking in the scene, her arm already swelling, red welts visible on her shoulder where the dress strap had fallen, tears on her face, 8 months pregnant, backed against the wall like a frightened animal. And Elliot, Chief Executive Officer Elliot Chambers, featured in Forbes last month, Philanthropist of the Year, her husband, standing there casual and calm. But Ryan had seen the belt, saw where Elliot had just tucked it back into his pants. Maggie, Ryan's voice came out quiet, dangerous. Elliot turned, his smile still in place. Ah, excellent. Just set it by the window, please. Ryan did not move. His eyes stayed locked on his sister. Maggie, he said again, are you okay? She is fine, Elliot said, his tone sharpening. Just a bit emotional. You know how pregnant women can be. That was when Ryan looked at Elliot, really looked at him, and something shifted in the air. What happened next took 17 seconds. Ryan crossed the room in 4 strides. Elliot started to speak, some explanation forming, some command to control the situation like he controlled everything else. Ryan's fist connected with Elliot's jaw. The sound was sharp, brutal, satisfying. Elliot stumbled backward, shocked. Nobody had ever hit him before. Not in his entire privileged life. Nobody dared. Ryan hit him again. Elliot's nose broke. Blood sprayed across his expensive white shirt. Ryan hit him a 3rd time, a 4th, driving Elliot down to the plush carpet. Ryan, Maggie screamed. Ryan, stop! Not to protect Elliot. She realized that in the moment. She was not trying to save her husband from her brother. She was trying to save her brother from what would happen if he did not stop. Because if Ryan kept going, he would kill Elliot. And Maggie could not lose her brother. Not for this, not for him. Ryan's fists paused mid-strike. He looked at Maggie, blood on his knuckles, breathing hard. Please, Maggie whispered. Please, Ryan, stop. Ryan stood, stepped back, his hands still clenched. Elliot lay on the floor, blood pouring from his nose. His lips split, looking up with pure hatred in his eyes. But underneath the hatred, Maggie saw something else. Fear. For the first time in 2 years, she saw fear in her husband's face. The room service cart sat forgotten by the door, the silver covers still over the plates. Maggie could smell the food. Steak, lobster. The anniversary dinner Elliot had ordered to celebrate their 2 years of marriage. 2 years. 730 days of walking on eggshells, of monitoring his moods, of making herself smaller and quieter and less, of telling herself it would get better, that she could fix it, that love was supposed to be hard work. Ryan pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Elliot demanded, trying to sound authoritative from the floor. Failing. Calling the police, Ryan said. You attacked me, Elliot said, his voice growing stronger, finding his footing even while bleeding. In my hotel room. Witnesses will confirm it. Security cameras caught you entering. You will be arrested. Ryan's finger hovered over the screen. Maggie watched her brother war with himself, watching him realize the trap, the power Elliot held, the money, the connections, the expensive lawyers on speed dial. I do not care, Ryan said finally. He pressed the call button. But before he could speak to dispatch, hotel security burst through the door, followed by the manager. Then curious guests peering from the hallway. The scene they found, a bleeding chief executive officer on the floor, a young room service worker standing over him with bloody knuckles, a pregnant woman crying between them. He attacked me, Elliot said immediately, playing to the audience. I want him arrested. I am pressing charges. Michael Turner entered last, Ryan's supervisor, 52 years old, 20 years working at the Harrison. He had seen everything hotels had to offer, the good, the bam, the hidden. His eyes moved from Elliot to Ryan to Maggie. Then he looked at Maggie's arm, the welts, the swelling, the torn dress strap. Ma'am, Michael said quietly, are you injured? Maggie opened her mouth, closed it, every survival instinct screaming at her to lie, to protect, to keep the secret like she had for 2 years. Elliot's eyes bored into her. A warning, a threat, a promise of what would happen if she spoke. But Ryan stood there too, her baby brother, who had left college when their father died, who worked double shifts so their mother would not be alone, who Maggie had barely seen in a year because Elliot had suggested she limit contact with her family. The baby kicked inside her, hard, insistent, as if she was also waiting for her mother to choose. Security waited, Michael waited, the guests in the hallway waited. Maggie looked at her brother, at Ryan, who had always protected her, even when they were kids, even now. "He hit me," Maggie said, her voice barely a whisper. "My husband hit me." The words hung in the air. Then everything changed. Security's focus shifted from Ryan to Elliot. The manager pulled out his radio. Michael knelt beside Maggie with gentle, professional concern. "How many times did he strike you, ma'am?" "Twice," Maggie said, then stopped. "Because that was only tonight. Only this moment." "Has this happened before?" Michael asked, his voice kind, patient. Maggie's silence answered. Elliot stood, wiped blood from his mouth, his lawyer voice activating, smooth, authoritative, in control. "This is a misunderstanding," he said, "a private marital dispute between my wife and myself. This man," he pointed at Ryan, "violently assaulted me without cause." "I had cause," Ryan said, his voice steady despite his shaking hands. "I walked in and saw him standing over my sister with a belt in his hand. She was crying, pregnant, injured. That is all the cause I needed." The manager's expression shifted. "Someone call 911. Paramedics arrived first. Standard procedure for assault calls. A woman in her 40s, gray streaks in her dark hair, eyes that had seen too much. She approached Maggie with practiced gentleness. "Ma'am, I need to examine you and check on the baby. Can you tell me what happened tonight?" Elliot stepped forward. "She is fine. That man attacked me. He is the violent one." The paramedic did not even look at him. "Sir, I am speaking to your wife." A moment of silence, everyone watching. The hotel guests, the security team, the manager, Ryan with his bloody knuckles. The paramedic's eyes met Maggie's, kind, knowing, like she had asked this question 1,000 times before. "Ma'am," she said softly, "what happened?" Maggie took a breath. The baby kicked again, reminding her why this mattered, why speaking up mattered more than keeping quiet. "He hit me with his belt," Maggie said. Louder this time, clear. "My husband hit me with his belt, twice, on my arm and shoulder." The paramedic's demeanor shifted to clinical efficiency. "I need to document your injuries. Do I have your permission to photograph them?" Maggie nodded. More police arrived, uniforms filling the platinum suite. Then a detective, late 40s, short gray hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Detective Sharon Hayes," she introduced herself. "Domestic Violence Unit." Elliot's face paled slightly. This was escalating beyond his control. "This is a private matter," he tried again, "between my wife and himself." Detective Hayes looked at him, then at Maggie, at the welts on her arm already darkening to purple. "Assault on a pregnant woman is never a private matter," Hayes said, her voice flat, final. She turned to Maggie. "Ma'am, has your husband struck you before tonight?" Every eye in the room turned to Maggie, waiting, the question that would change everything. Maggie looked at Ryan, at her brother, who loved her, who protected her, who deserved the truth. Then she looked at Detective Hayes, at this woman who had probably seen hundreds of women like her, women who lied, who covered, who protected their abusers until it was too late. "Yes," Maggie said, "he has hit me before." "How many times?" Maggie's voice broke. "I do not know anymore. I stopped counting." The hotel manager appeared with a tablet, security footage queued and ready. "Detective," he said quietly, "you need to see this." Hayes took the tablet, watched the screen, her expression hardening with each passing second. "What does it show?" Elliot demanded, trying to maintain control, to manage the narrative. Hayes looked at him. "It shows exactly what your wife just described, and more." Security had 17 cameras in the hallway alone. The footage showed Elliot and Maggie entering the Platinum Suite at 6:15 that evening. Showed their movements through the cracked door when housekeeping across the hall opened their door at various points. Showed Elliot grabbing Maggie's arm roughly at 6:41. Showed her stumbling. Showed him pacing angrily at 7:53 while she sat frozen on the bed. Showed the belt coming off at 8:12. Showed everything Maggie had tried so hard to hide for 2 years. "Mr. Chambers," Detective Hayes said, "you are under arrest for domestic assault." Elliot's face transformed, rage breaking through the careful mask. "You cannot arrest me. Do you know who I am? Do you know what resources I have?" "I know you hit your pregnant wife," Hayes replied. "That is all I need to know." As the officers moved to handcuff Elliot, he looked at Maggie. His eyes promised retribution, punishment for speaking, for exposing him. But Maggie did not look away. For the first time in 2 years, she met his gaze directly, without flinching, without apologizing. The baby kicked one more time, strong, alive, protected, and Maggie realized something that would sustain her through everything that came next. She had just done the hardest thing she would ever do. She had spoken the truth out loud. Everything else would be easier than that first moment of breaking silence. The ambulance ride felt surreal. Maggie sat strapped to the gurney while the female paramedic monitored the baby's heartbeat, strong and steady, 145 beats per minute. "Your daughter is doing well," the paramedic said. Her name tag read Susan Miller. "Stressed but stable." "How did you know it is a girl?" Maggie asked. Susan smiled gently. "The way you touch your belly, left side. That is where girls usually position themselves late in pregnancy. I have been doing this for 23 years. Ryan followed in his old Honda. Maggie could see him through the ambulance's back window, his hands gripping the steering wheel, his face set with determination. Susan checked Maggie's blood pressure. 130/85. Elevated but not dangerous. "You did the right thing," Susan said quietly. "Speaking up back there." Maggie did not respond, could not respond. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind bone-deep exhaustion and trembling hands. "I was married to a man like yours once," Susan continued, her voice a matter of fact. "Took me 11 years to leave. 11 years of telling myself that it would get better, that I was overreacting, that nobody would believe me." Maggie finally looked at the paramedic, really looked at her, saw the understanding in her eyes, the hard-won wisdom. "How did you finally leave?" Maggie asked. "My daughter asked me why Daddy was allowed to hurt Mommy, but she got in trouble for hitting at school," Susan said. "That was the moment I realized I was teaching her this was normal, that love looked like fear." The ambulance pulled into the emergency room bay. The automatic doors opened. Bright lights flooded in. "You just did the hardest part," Susan said. "You said it out loud. Everything after this will be hard too, but you already proved you can do hard things." They wheeled Maggie into the emergency room. Room 7, curtains for privacy, the smell of antiseptic and fear. Dr. Emma Foster arrived within minutes, 47 years old, chief of obstetrics, Maggie's doctor for the entire pregnancy. "Maggie," Dr. Foster said, her voice calm but her eyes concerned. "Let me examine you and the baby." Ryan waited outside the curtain. Maggie could hear him pacing, the squeak of his shoes on the polished floor. Dr. Foster worked efficiently, checking the welts on Maggie's arm and shoulder, photographing them with Maggie's consent, documenting everything for the medical record. "These are fresh," Dr. Foster said. "Under 2 hours old. The pattern is consistent with a belt strike. Maggie, I need to ask you some questions. They are mandatory for situations like this." Maggie nodded. She knew Dr. Foster was a mandatory reporter, had to document any signs of abuse. "Have you been struck before tonight?" "Yes," Maggie whispered. "How often?" "I do not know, maybe once a month at first, then more, twice a week near the end." Dr. Foster's pen paused over her tablet. "The end? What do you mean?" "Before tonight, before everything came out." The doctor continued her examination, found old bruises on Maggie's ribs, yellowing, 3 weeks old maybe, the remnants of an argument about Maggie spending too much time with Julia, her best friend, former best friend, the one Elliot had slowly cut out of Maggie's life. "Maggie," Dr. Foster said carefully, I am seeing evidence of a healed rib fracture here. Left side, sixth rib. Can you tell me how that happened? Maggie remembered, 4 months ago, the staircase in their house. Elliot angry about dinner being late, his hand on her back. Not a push exactly, just enough pressure that she lost her balance. I fell, Maggie said automatically. The lie she had told for 4 months. Down the stairs at home. Dr. Foster made a note. Did not argue, just documented. The ultrasound machine came next. Cold gel on Maggie's belly, the probe moving across her skin, the sound of Charlotte's heartbeat filling the room. Steady, strong, alive. Your daughter looks perfect, Dr. Foster said. No signs of distress, no placental issues. She has been through trauma tonight, but she is resilient. Just like her mother, Maggie thought. Both of them resilient, both of them fighters. A commotion outside the curtain, raised voices. Then Patricia Sullivan burst into the examination room, still wearing her nursing scrubs from the night shift at St. Anthony's Hospital across town. Maggie, she breathed, just her daughter's name, packed with relief and fury and love. Patricia was 55 years old, had raised Maggie and Ryan alone after their father's death, worked double shifts to keep them fed and housed and safe. She had not known about the abuse. Maggie had hidden it too well. Patricia's eyes took in the welts on Maggie's arm, the torn dress, the fear in her daughter's eyes. Then she turned to Ryan waiting outside the curtain. Silently, she opened her arms. Ryan walked into his mother's embrace and broke down, 26 years old and crying like a child. I did not know, he said into his mother's shoulder. Mama, I did not know he was hurting her. None of us knew, Patricia said, her voice steady despite her own tears. That is how these men work. They hide it. Make everyone think they are perfect. Patricia pulled back, looked at her son, at his bloody knuckles. Did you hit him? She asked. Yes, Ryan said. Good, Patricia replied without hesitation. He earned it. Dr. Foster finished her examination. Maggie, I want to keep you overnight for observation. Make sure the baby stays stable. Make sure you are safe. Safe from what? Maggie asked. Then realize, safe from Elliot, even though he was arrested, even though he was in custody somewhere. Your husband has resources, Dr. Foster said gently. Money, lawyers, influence. These situations can escalate quickly. I want you here where we can monitor you. Patricia sat beside Maggie's bed, took her daughter's hand, did not speak, just held on. The monitors beeped steadily, the baby's heartbeat, Maggie's pulse, the rhythm of survival. I am sorry, Mama, Maggie whispered, for lying, for hiding, for making you think everything was fine. Patricia squeezed her hand tighter. You survived. That is all that matters. You survived and you spoke up. That took more courage than most people have. Ryan entered the room, stood at the foot of the bed, his eyes red but his jaw set. The police want my statement, he said, about what I saw, what I did. Tell them everything, Patricia said firmly. Every single detail. Maggie's memory started flooding back. Moments she had buried, incidents she had minimized. The wedding where Elliot squeezed her arm so tight it bruised because she laughed too loud at her uncle's joke. The ultrasound where he squeezed her hand painfully when the tech said the baby was a girl instead of the boy he wanted. The dinner party where he smiled at the guests while his hand gripped her thigh under the table, warning her, controlling her. The miscarriage at 6 weeks, 8 months ago, before this pregnancy. Elliot had blamed Maggie for it. If you had rested like I told you, if you had not been so stressed, if you had listened to me. Maggie had believed him, had spent months feeling like she had killed her first baby through negligence. Now, lying in the hospital bed, she wondered, had there been a miscarriage? Or had something else happened? Some shove she had forgotten? Some violence she had blocked out? Maggie, Dr. Foster's voice cut through the memories. Where did you go just now? Maggie blinked, focused on the present. I was remembering everything I tried not to remember. That is normal, Dr. Foster said. Trauma does not process chronologically. It will come back in pieces. Moments you thought you had forgotten. It might feel overwhelming. It already feels overwhelming, Maggie admitted. Detective Hayes appeared in the doorway, knocked gently on the frame. Mrs. Chambers, I need to ask you some more questions, if you are feeling up to it. Maggie nodded. Patricia stayed by her side. Ryan stood by the door like a guard. Hayes pulled out a tablet. I have been reviewing the hotel security footage. There are multiple cameras. They show a pattern of behavior throughout the evening. She turned the screen toward Maggie. Do you remember this? 6:15. Maggie and Elliot entering the platinum suite, smiling, his hand on her lower back, looking like any happy couple on their anniversary. Then 6:41. Inside the room, visible through a crack when housekeeping opened the door across the hall, Elliot's hand grabbing Maggie's arm, yanking her. She stumbled, the happiness gone. 7:53, Elliot pacing, agitated, on his phone, by Maggie sitting on the bed edge, very still. That stillness abuse victims learn. The freeze response, making yourself small and invisible. 8:12. The belt coming off, Maggie backing away, hands up, protective, then Ryan knocking. Everything changing. Yes, Maggie said quietly. I remember all of it. The hotel's lawyer is cooperating fully, Hayes said. They do not want liability. They are providing us with everything. Audio recordings, staff statements, prior reservations showing a pattern. Prior reservations? Maggie asked. You and your husband have stayed at the Harrison 4 times in the past year, Hayes said. Each time housekeeping reported concerning sounds, arguments, objects being thrown. On 2 occasions, they reported seeing bruises on you. Maggie had not known anyone noticed, had thought she was hiding it successfully. Why did no one say anything? Patricia demanded, her voice sharp with maternal fury. Hotel policy is to document but not intervene unless directly asked, Hayes said. It is insufficient, but it is their policy. However, those reports will help build the case. Hayes closed the tablet, looked at Maggie directly. Mrs. Chambers, I need to know, has your husband ever hurt you in ways that did not leave visible marks? Maggie thought about the invisible wounds, the words, the control, the isolation. He monitored my phone, Maggie said slowly. Read all my texts, deleted messages before I could see them. Made me think friends had stopped reaching out when really he was blocking them. Financial control? Hayes asked. All our accounts are joint, but he controls them. I have a credit card, but he reviews every purchase. Questions everything. Once I bought a coffee, and he asked why I needed coffee when we had some at home. Did he ever prevent you from leaving the house? Not directly, but there were rules. I could not go out without telling him where, who I was meeting, when I would be back. If I was late, even by 10 minutes, he would call repeatedly, text constantly, then punish me when I got home. Hayes wrote everything down, building the case, documenting the pattern. One more question, Hayes said, and this is important. Has your husband ever threatened to take the baby? To claim you are an unfit mother? Maggie's hands went to her belly, protective. Yes, she whispered, 3 weeks ago. We argued about visiting my mother. He said if I did not start acting right, he would make sure I never saw the baby after she was born. That he had lawyers who could prove I was unstable. That no judge would give custody to someone like me. Hayes' expression darkened. Someone like you. Those were his exact words? Yes. Mrs. Chambers, I need you to understand something. Your husband is going to fight this. He has money, connections, resources. His lawyers are probably already preparing his defense. What defense? Ryan asked from the doorway. There is video evidence, medical reports, her testimony. His defense will be that this was an isolated incident, Hayes said, that he was under extreme stress, that Mrs. Chambers provoked him, that her brother attacked first and he was defending himself, and most importantly, that she is an unfit mother who cannot provide a stable home for the baby. The words hung in the air like poison. He will try to take Charlotte, Maggie said. Not a question, a certainty. He will try, Hayes confirmed. That is why we need to move quickly, document everything, file for emergency protective orders, get ahead of his narrative. A knock on the door, a woman in her late 40s, professional suit, confident bearing. I am attorney Rebecca Price, she said. The hospital social worker referred me. I specialize in domestic violence cases. Rebecca pulled a chair to Maggie's bedside, opened her briefcase, efficiency and competence radiating from her. Mrs. Chambers, I have been doing this for 18 years. I have seen men like your husband before. Wealthy, powerful, used to controlling everything. They do not respond well to losing control. He has already lost control, Maggie said. Everyone saw. Everyone knows. Everyone saw one incident, Rebecca corrected gently. Your husband's lawyers will work to make it seem like an aberration, a mistake, something that can be explained away. We need to show the pattern, the history, the deliberate nature of the abuse. Rebecca pulled out paperwork, pre-filled, just needing Maggie's signature. This is an emergency protective order. It prevents your husband from contacting you, from coming within 500 feet of you, from any communication, direct or indirect. What about the baby? Patricia asked. The order includes any children born during its duration, Rebecca said. But it is temporary, 14 days. Then we go before a judge for a permanent order. That is where the real battle will happen. How much do you charge? Maggie asked, her voice small, defeated, because she had no money. Everything was Elliot's. In accounts he controlled. I work pro bono for cases like yours, Rebecca said, through a nonprofit fund. You will not pay anything. Maggie's eyes filled with tears. The kindness of strangers overwhelming after 2 years of isolation. I need to tell you something, Rebecca continued. Your husband made bail 2 hours ago. He is out. The room temperature seemed to drop. How? Ryan demanded. He was just arrested. He has expensive lawyers and no prior criminal record, Hayes said. The judge set a high bail, $500,000. Your husband paid it in cash. He is out there, Maggie whispered. He knows I spoke against him. He knows I told. Rebecca leaned forward, which is why you need to sign this protective order tonight, before his lawyers build their case, before he has time to plan. She held out a pen. Maggie stared at the paperwork. Once she signed, there was no going back. Elliot would know she was fighting, would escalate, would use every resource to destroy her. But she looked at her family, her mother, her brother, her unborn daughter fighting inside her belly. What choice did she really have? Maggie took the pen, signed her name, Margaret Ann Sullivan Chambers, soon to be just Sullivan again. The judge will review this at 9 tomorrow morning, Rebecca said. 12 hours. We need to prepare your statement, build the evidence file, get everything ready. 12 hours, Maggie repeated. 12 hours until the next battle. 12 hours of temporary safety. Rebecca stood, organized her papers with practiced efficiency. Get some rest if you can, she said. Tomorrow will be a long day. After Rebecca left, the hospital room fell quiet, just the beeping monitors, the distant sounds of the emergency room. Patricia climbed into the narrow hospital bed beside her daughter, held her like she had when Maggie was small, when nightmares could be chased away with a mother's touch. Ryan sat in the chair. He would not sleep, would not leave, standing guard like he had when they were children, and Maggie was afraid of the dark. Maggie lay between them, safe for now, protected, but knowing tomorrow would bring new dangers. The baby kicked one more time, then settled, as if she also understood they needed rest for the battle ahead. Outside the hospital window, the city lights glowed, the same city where Maggie had lived for 2 years as Mrs. Elliot Chambers, in a $3 million house, wearing designer clothes, playing the perfect wife. That life was over. What came next, she did not know. But at least she would face it surrounded by the people who truly loved her. And that was more than she had had in a very long time. The discharge papers came at 6 in the morning. Dr. Foster's orders, bed rest, stress reduction, monitor for contractions. The irony was not lost on anyone. Maggie dressed in the clothes Patricia brought from home. The house Maggie had not been back to, would probably never go back to. Soft pants, an oversized sweater. Nothing that belonged to Elliot's carefully curated vision of his perfect wife. Rebecca had arranged a hotel room, not the Harrison, a smaller place called the Riverside Inn. Older building, clean but basic, room 214. Ryan put it on his credit card. My man. $79 a night, nothing like the Platinum Suite. Ryan drove. Patricia sat in back with Maggie. Julia Brennan met them in the hotel parking lot. Julia, Maggie's former best friend, not seen in 18 months, standing there in jeans and a sweatshirt, eyes red like she had been crying. They had met in college, shared an apartment, been bridesmaids at each other's weddings, made plans to raise their children together. Then Elliot slowly cut her out, convinced Maggie that Julia was toxic, jealous, a bad influence. Maggie had believed him, stopped returning calls, made excuses, let the friendship die. Now Julia stood in the parking lot at 6:30 in the morning, present, loyal, waiting. Julia, Maggie breathed, I am so sorry. Julia crossed to her in 3 steps, wrapped her arms around Maggie carefully, mindful of the pregnancy, the injuries. You have nothing to apologize for, Julia said fiercely. Nothing. Do you understand me? They went upstairs, room 214, 1 queen bed, a chair that folded out into an uncomfortable-looking cot, small bathroom, window overlooking the parking lot. Maggie sat on the bed, still wearing the same blue dress from yesterday. Stained now, torn. She should change. Shower. Sleep. She could not move. Patricia and Julia unpacked the bags. Ryan checked the locks on the door, the window, making sure everything was secure. I am going back to your house, Patricia said, to get more of your things. You cannot, Maggie said. Elliot might be there. Then he will have to deal with me, Patricia replied, her voice hard. You need clothes, toiletries, your own things. I will go with you, Ryan said. No, Patricia countered. You stay here with your sister. Julie and I will go. After they left, the hotel room felt too quiet, too still. Maggie sat on the bed. Ryan sat in the chair, neither speaking. Thank you, Maggie finally said, for last night, for everything. You do not need to thank me, Ryan replied. I am your brother. That is what family does. I should have told you, should have asked for help sooner. He would not have let you. That is how abusers work. They isolate, make you think you are alone. Maggie looked at her brother, really looked at him. When had he grown up? When had he become this man who understood trauma and abuse and survival? When Dad died, Ryan said, answering her unspoken question, I started researching grief, trauma, how it affects people. Met a counselor at the community center. She taught me the signs, what to look for. And you saw them in me, Maggie realized. I suspected, but Elliot was so good at controlling the narrative, making everything seem fine, making me doubt what I saw. I became very good at lying, Maggie admitted, at pretending. That was not lying, that was surviving. Maggie's phone buzzed, unknown number. She stared at it, afraid to answer. Give it to me, Ryan said. He took the phone, checked the caller ID. It is Rebecca. Maggie took the phone back, answered. Mrs. Chambers. Rebecca's voice came through crisp and professional. We need to meet before the hearing. I have some information you need to know. What information? In person. Can you come to my office at 7:30? Maggie looked at the clock. 1 hour. Yes, she said. I will be there. Rebecca's office occupied the 3rd floor of an older building downtown. Affordable space, practical furniture, walls covered with diplomas and thank you cards from former clients. Rebecca's paralegal, Sam Cooper, was already there. Late 20s, organized, efficient, computer open with multiple files displayed. Mrs. Chambers, Rebecca began without preamble. Your husband's business partner contacted me last night. David Morrison. He wants to cooperate, provide testimony, documents. Why? Maggie asked. David works with Elliot. They have been partners for 5 years. Because the phone call that started everything on Saturday night, Rebecca said, the one Elliot claimed you mishandled. Do you know what that call was about? Maggie shook her head. David Morrison was telling your husband he was pulling out of their joint venture, $22 million, walking away because he could no longer work with Elliot. The room tilted slightly. Elliot was angry about losing money, Maggie said slowly. Not about anything I did. Exactly, and David has been documenting Elliot's behavior for months. Angry outbursts at work, throwing objects in meetings, threatening employees. The board of Chambers Industries was preparing to force him out. Maggie absorbed this information. He was losing everything, and I was just there, a convenient target. You were never the problem, Rebecca said firmly. His anger was never about you. It was about his loss of control, his failing business, his crumbling image. Sam pulled up files on the computer, emails, text messages, board meeting minutes. David Morrison has provided documentation going back 8 months, showing a pattern of escalating violence at work. Not physical, but verbal abuse, intimidation, behavior that made employees afraid. If the board was forcing him out, Ryan asked, why wait? Because Elliot Chambers is the founder's son, Sam explained. Legacy, family name. They were trying to handle it quietly, convince him to step down, but he was refusing. So Saturday night, Maggie said, when he beat me, he was already losing everything. And he took it out on the person he thought he still controlled. Rebecca finished. You. The realization settled heavy and cold. Maggie had spent 2 years thinking she caused his anger, that if she was better, quieter, more perfect, he would stop hurting her. But it was never about her. It had always been about him, his issues, his failures, his need for control. There is more, Rebecca said. Sam found something else. Sam turned the computer screen. Police reports from other jurisdictions, other states. Your husband has no criminal record, Sam said. But I cross-referenced his name with domestic disturbance calls. Found 3. Different women, different years. All charges dropped, just with non-disclosure agreements filed shortly after. Maggie's hands went cold. He has done this before. Multiple times, Sam confirmed. I contacted the women. Only one would speak to me. She is willing to testify. Who is she, Maggie asked. Sarah Whitman. She dated your husband in college. 15 years ago, he shoved her into a wall during an argument. She transferred schools to get away from him. She will testify, Ryan asked. She said she has been waiting 15 years for someone to finally hold him accountable. Rebecca pulled out more files. We also found 2 other women from more recent relationships. Before you, Michelle Bradford and Amanda Carlson. Both signed non-disclosure agreements. Both received settlement payments. To keep quiet, Maggie realized. Exactly. Your husband has a pattern, and we are building evidence of that pattern. A knock on the office door. A woman entered, mid-30s, professional but nervous, eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Chambers, Rebecca said, this is Michelle Bradford. She has agreed to break her non-disclosure agreement to testify on your behalf. Michelle sat across from Maggie, hands clasped tight in her lap. I was engaged to Elliot 6 years ago, Michelle said, her voice quiet but steady. I thought he was perfect, successful, charming, attentive. What happened, Maggie asked, though she already knew, had lived it herself. The engagement changed him, or revealed him. I do not know which, but he started controlling everything. What I wore, who I saw, what I ate. He said it was because he cared, because he wanted me healthy for the wedding. And then, Maggie prompted, then I disagreed with him about the wedding venue. A stupid thing, so small. But he threw a plate at me, missed my head by inches. I broke off the engagement that night. And he let you go? Ryan asked skeptically. No, he stalked me for 6 months. Showed up at my work, my apartment. Sent flowers with notes saying he was sorry, that he would change, that I was making a mistake. How did it stop? Maggie asked. My father hired a lawyer, threatened him. Elliot's family did not want the scandal. They paid me $200,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement, to disappear. Michelle looked at Maggie directly. I took the money. I was scared. I wanted it over. And I told myself it was enough that I got away. But it was not enough, Maggie said softly. Understanding. No, because he found you and probably hurt others between us. And I stayed silent. You are not staying silent now, Maggie pointed out. No, because this time he went too far. And this time there is evidence he cannot explain away. Rebecca checked her watch. We need to leave for court. The hearing starts in 45 minutes. They drove to the courthouse in 2 cars. Rebecca, Sam, and Maggie in one. Ryan and Michelle in the other. Patricia and Julia would meet them there. The courthouse lobby was already crowded. 8:30 in the morning, families waiting for hearings, lawyers conferring with clients. And Elliot, he stood near the information desk, wearing an expensive suit, face still bruised from Ryan's fists, flanked by two lawyers, Thomas Ashford, the defense attorney, and someone Maggie did not recognize, probably a family law specialist. Elliot saw Maggie, his expression carefully neutral, but his eyes promised retribution. Rebecca stepped between them. "Mr. Chambers, the protective order prevents contact." "I am not contacting her," Elliot said smoothly. "I am standing in a public building, waiting for my hearing." "Then stand elsewhere," Rebecca replied. Ice in her voice. Elliot's lawyer, Thomas Ashford, pulled him away, toward the elevators, away from Maggie, but not before Elliot looked at Maggie one more time. That look that used to make her apologize before she knew what she had done wrong. That look that kept her small and quiet and afraid. Maggie did not look away, did not apologize. The baby kicked, hard, as if Charlotte also refused to back down. They rode the elevator to family court, third floor, waited outside Judge Ellen Matthews' courtroom. "Judge Matthews is fair," Rebecca said. 23 years on the bench. She has seen these cases before. She will look at the evidence." At exactly 9 o'clock, the bailiff called them in. Case number 3479, Chambers versus Chambers, emergency protective order hearing. They filed in, Maggie, Rebecca, and Sam on one side, Elliot and his legal team on the other, the judge's bench high above them all. Judge Ellen Matthews entered, late 50s, gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Be seated," she said. "We are here for an emergency protective order filed by Margaret Ann Chambers against Elliot James Chambers. I have reviewed the petition. Mr. Ashford, your client wishes to contest?" Thomas Ashford stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We believe this protective order is unnecessary and based on false allegations meant to gain advantage in an impending divorce." "False allegations," Judge Matthews repeated. "Despite the medical reports, the police reports, the hotel security footage?" Thomas hesitated, just for a second. "Your Honor, that footage is being taken out of context." "Then please provide context," the judge said. Thomas pulled up his tablet. "The footage shows Mr. Chambers and his wife having a disagreement, an argument. Unfortunately, Mrs. Chambers' brother entered the room and violently assaulted my client. The injuries Mrs. Chambers sustained occurred during that altercation." "So your position," Judge Matthews said carefully, "is that Mrs. Chambers' brother caused her injuries?" "We believe that the timeline supports that interpretation." "And the belt in your client's hand on the footage?" "My client was getting dressed, about to leave the room after the argument." Maggie listened to the lies, the reframing, the manipulation. This was what Elliot did, how he operated, taking the truth and twisting it until up was down and black was white. Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, I have the unedited security footage. May I present it?" "Please do." The large screen at the front of the courtroom lit up. Timestamp 6:15. Maggie and Elliot entering the Platinum Suite, smiling, laughing, looking happy. 6:41. The housekeeping door crack view. Elliot grabbing Maggie's arm, yanking, her stumbling. 7:53. Elliot pacing, angry, on his phone. Maggie sitting frozen. That terrible stillness. 8:12, the belt coming off. Elliot moving toward Maggie, her backing away. Then Ryan knocking. Everything changing. The courtroom silent, everyone watching. "Mr. Ashford," Judge Matthews said, "would your client like to revise his statement?" Thomas looked at Elliot, a whispered conference. "Your Honor," Thomas said carefully, "we request a continuance to review this additional footage." Denied. "Do you have any evidence that contradicts what we just watched?" "We have evidence that Mrs. Chambers has mental health issues, instability due to pregnancy, that she provoked this argument, that the family has a history of violence as demonstrated by her brother's attack." "Do you have documentation of Mrs. Chambers' alleged mental health issues?" Thomas flipped through his files. "Her husband reports concerning behavior, mood swings, irrational decisions." "Her husband's reports," Judge Matthews said flatly. Any medical documentation? Psychiatric evaluations? Actual evidence? Not at this time. Then I am granting the emergency protective order. Mr. Chambers, you are prohibited from any contact with your wife. No phone calls, no texts, no third-party messages, no approaching within 500 feet. Elliot's face darkened, fury breaking through his careful control. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am ordering a full custody evaluation once the child is born. Until that evaluation is complete, Mrs. Chambers retains all parental rights and decision-making authority. Your Honor, Thomas objected, my client has rights as the father. Your client has rights that will be determined after the evaluation, based on his behavior, based on the evidence, not based on his attorney's arguments. Judge Matthews looked at Maggie directly. Mrs. Chambers, do you understand this order? Yes, Your Honor, Maggie said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. Do you feel safe returning home? I am not returning home. I am staying elsewhere. Good. The order will remain in effect for 90 days. We will reconvene after the birth for permanent custody determination. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down, sharp, final. They filed out of the courtroom. Elliot and his lawyers went one direction. Maggie and her team went another. In the hallway, Michelle Bradford waited. You did it, she said to Maggie. You actually did it. We all did it, Maggie replied. Looking at Rebecca, Sam, Ryan, Patricia, Julia, the people who had stood with her. But as they walked toward the elevator, Elliot appeared at the far end of the hall, not close enough to violate the order, but close enough his voice carried. Maggie, he called, I love you, I love our daughter. This is all a misunderstanding. Come home. Let us fix this as a family. Rebecca started to intervene, but Maggie stopped her. Maggie stepped forward, maintaining the required distance, but speaking loud and clear for everyone in the hallway to hear. You hit me. You have been hitting me for 2 years. You isolated me from my friends. You controlled my money. You monitored my phone. And Saturday night, you used your belt on me while I was 8 months pregnant with your child. That is not love. That is not family. That is abuse. The hallway fell silent. Lawyers, families, court staff, everyone watching. Elliot's mask slipped. Just for a second. The rage underneath visible, raw, dangerous. Then he recovered, smoothed his expression, turned, walked away. But Maggie had seen it. The real him, the one she had been too afraid to name for 2 years. And now everyone else had seen it too. As they rode the elevator down, Maggie realized something. She was not shaking anymore. The fear had loosened its grip. She had spoken her truth in front of a judge, in front of witnesses, in front of Elliot himself. And the world had not ended. Instead, for the first time in 2 years, she felt like she could breathe. The phone started ringing at 11:24 that morning. Back at the hotel room, Maggie stared at the screen. Caroline Chambers, Elliot's mother. Maggie did not answer. It rang again. Unknown number. Probably Elliot's lawyer. Again. Different unknown number. Again. A reporter. Somehow they had gotten her number. Ryan took the phone, powered it off. You do not have to talk to anyone. But Maggie's mind spun with possibilities. Elliot's connections. His lawyers. His money. His ability to control narratives and manipulate outcomes. Patricia made sandwiches from the small kitchenette. Turkey and cheese. Simple. Grounding. Something normal in the abnormal situation. Julia sat cross-legged on the floor, working on her laptop, responding to work emails, pretending everything was fine while her best friend's life fell apart. Maggie lay on the bed, hands on her belly, the baby quiet now, resting, building strength for the final push toward birth. The anger came slowly, then all at once. Fury at every time she had minimized the abuse. Every time she had said, he did not mean it, or I should not have upset him, or it will get better. Fury at the friends who had stopped calling because Elliot convinced them she was too busy, or too different, or too caught up in her new wealthy life. Fury at herself for believing his promises, for thinking a baby would change him, for staying far longer than she should have. The emotion overwhelmed her. Maggie curled on her side, silent sobs shaking her body. The baby kicked in response, worried, feeling her mother's distress. Patricia climbed onto the bed, wrapped around her daughter from behind, held her through the storm. "Let it out," Patricia murmured. "You have earned the right to be angry." Ryan stood by the window, fists clenched, his own fury matching his sister's. Julia closed her laptop, came to sit on the bed's edge. "I should have known," Julia said quietly. "I should have seen it." Maggie shook her head, still unable to speak. "I did see it," Julia continued, "but I let him convince me I was wrong. 8 months ago, do you remember? Elliot came to my office." Maggie stilled, listening. "He said you did not want to be friends anymore, that I was stressing you out, that the pregnancy was high risk and you needed space." Maggie finally found her voice. "I never said that. I know that now, but he was so convincing, so concerned. He had text messages, conversations you supposedly had with him about me, about how I was too demanding, too needy. Texts I never wrote," Maggie said. "He had your phone," Julia realized. "Complete access. He could send messages as you, delete responses before you saw them." "He controlled everything," Maggie confirmed. "My phone, my email, my social media. I thought he was being protective, worried about my safety. And instead he was isolating you," Julia finished, "making sure you had no one to turn to." "He almost succeeded," Maggie said. "If Ryan had not been working at that hotel, if he had not knocked at that exact moment, what would have happened?" The question hung heavy in the air because they all knew the answer. Abuse escalates. Statistics proved it. Domestic violence during pregnancy was one of the leading causes of maternal death. If Ryan had not interrupted, Maggie might not have survived that night. "But I did survive," Maggie said, speaking the words for herself as much as anyone else. "I survived and I got out. That has to count for something." A knock on the hotel door made everyone jump. Patricia looked through the peephole. "It is Rebecca," she said. Rebecca entered with Sam following behind, both carrying file folders. "We need to talk about what comes next," Rebecca said without preamble. She spread papers across the small desk. "Elliot's legal team has filed counter petitions." "Already?" Ryan asked. "The hearing was 3 hours ago." "They worked fast," Sam said. "They are challenging the protective order, seeking emergency custody of the unborn child, and they have filed for divorce on grounds of abandonment." "Abandonment?" Maggie repeated. "He beat me. His claim is that you left the family home, took up residence elsewhere, refused counseling or reconciliation. In his narrative, he is the wrong party trying to keep his family together." Maggie felt the world tilt again. The lies, the manipulation, the rewriting of reality. "Can they do that?" Patricia demanded. "After everything? After the evidence?" "They can file anything," Rebecca explained. "Whether it succeeds is another matter. But we need to respond, build our case, show the pattern of abuse." Sam pulled out more documentation. "I have been researching your husband's business, Chambers Industries. There are some interesting financial irregularities." "Like what?" Maggie asked. "Large, unexplained withdrawals, payments to individuals with no clear business connection. I think your husband has been paying off other victims, other women, making problems disappear." "Michelle Bradford mentioned a settlement," Maggie said. $200,000. "I found 4 other payments similar to that one," Sam said. "All to women, all with non-disclosure agreements filed shortly after, all in the past 10 years. "So he has been doing this for a decade at least," Ryan said. "How many women?" "At least 7 that I can document," Sam replied. "Probably more who never came forward." Maggie processed this information. 7 women, 7 victims. And she had thought she was special, that his love for her was different, but she was just another name on a list, another woman he hurt and tried to silence. "Can we contact them?" Maggie asked. "The other women?" "Some," Sam said carefully. "The non-disclosure agreements are legally binding, but if they choose to break them for testimony, that is their decision." Rebecca's phone buzzed. She checked it. Her expression darkened. "What?" Maggie asked. "Caroline Chambers is outside the hotel," Rebecca said. "She wants to speak with you." "Absolutely not," Patricia said immediately. She is covered by the no contact order. Actually, Rebecca said reluctantly, the order specifically names Elliot, not his family members. That is a loophole we need to close. I will talk to her, Maggie said. No, Ryan objected. She will say terrible things, try to manipulate you. I know, Maggie replied, but I need to hear it, need to face her. They went down to the parking lot together. Caroline Chambers stood beside a Mercedes, 63 years old. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect mask of upper-class respectability. She saw Maggie, her face twisted with disgust. You are destroying my son's life, Caroline said. No greeting, no preamble. Your son destroyed his own life, Maggie replied, her voice steadier than she felt. He made a mistake. One mistake. Men get angry. That is natural. And you are ruining everything. His career, his reputation, his future. One mistake? Maggie repeated. Your son has been hurting me for 2 years. Where were you? Carolyn's expression hardened. You provoked him. Emotional women always provoke men, especially pregnant women. Hormones make you unstable, irrational. Maggie felt Patricia tense beside her, ready to defend. But Maggie held up a hand. You knew, Maggie said slowly, understanding dawning. You knew what he was, because he learned it somewhere. Did his father hit you? Carolyn's face flushed. That is none of your business. It is exactly my business. Because you raised a man who thinks violence is acceptable, who thinks women are property to be controlled. And now you are defending him because admitting the truth means admitting you failed. I failed? Carolyn's voice rose. I gave my son everything. The best schools, the best opportunities, built Chambers Industries into what it is today. You gave him money, Maggie said. Not morals, not empathy, not the understanding that other people are human beings with value. You gold-digging little... Caroline started. Patricia stepped forward, her voice deadly calm. Miss Chambers, step away from my daughter. Or what? Caroline sneered. Your son will attack me too? No, Patricia replied. I will have you arrested for violating the spirit of the protective order's no contact clause. You are here to intimidate my daughter on your son's behalf. That is illegal. Rebecca confirmed this from behind them. I can make the call right now. Caroline realized she was caught, outmaneuvered. She turned back to Maggie. You will regret this, she said. My family has resources, connections. We will make sure you never see that baby. We will prove you are unfit, unstable, a danger to your own child. Try, Maggie said simply. I have the truth, and I have people who actually love me. You have money and lawyers. Let us see which one matters more. Carolyn climbed into her Mercedes, slammed the door, drove away with a screech of tires. Maggie stood in the parking lot, shaking now, the adrenaline fading. That was amazing, Julia said. You were incredible. But Maggie did not feel incredible. She felt exhausted, terrified, overwhelmed by what came next. Back in the hotel room, she went straight to the bathroom, locked the door, turned on the shower, and finally let herself break down completely. The water ran cold before she finished crying. She stood under the spray until her skin was numb, until the hot water heater gave up, until she had no tears left. When she emerged, wrapped in the hotel's thin robe, Patricia had made tea. Ryan had ordered pizza. Julia had transformed the hotel room into something almost comfortable. We have a problem, Rebecca said. She was still there, still working. The custody evaluation is scheduled for 2 weeks after your due date. That gives Elliot's team time to build their case, to gather evidence, to prepare their narrative. What evidence? Maggie asked. The truth is the truth. But truth can be framed different ways, Rebecca explained. They will argue that you are emotionally unstable, that you live in a hotel room with no permanent address, that you have no income, no resources, no ability to provide for a child. Because her abuser controlled all the money, Ryan pointed out. We know that, but judges see these cases every day. Sometimes they believe the person with better lawyers, better presentation, more resources. So what do we do? Patricia asked. We build our case too. Document everything. Get statements from everyone who witnessed the abuse, medical records, police reports, hotel staff, business associates. We show the pattern. Sam pulled out a timeline, a visual chart showing 2 years of escalating abuse. We have documented 17 separate incidents, Sam said, from verbal abuse and control to physical violence. The belt whipping was the culmination, but it was not the beginning. Maggie looked at the timeline, seeing her life reduced to dates and bullet points. April 2 years ago, engagement dinner. Elliot squeezed her arm painfully when she laughed too loud. June, wedding day. Elliot shoved her against a wall backstage because her makeup took too long. August, first time he hit her, slap across the face. Then flowers and apologies the next day. The pattern repeated. Violence. Apologies. Honeymoon period. Then violence again. Each cycle worse than the last. I stayed through all of this, Maggie said quietly. Why did I stay? Because leaving is the most dangerous time, Rebecca said gently. You knew that instinctively. Most domestic violence murders happen when the victim tries to leave. And I was pregnant. Where would I have gone? I had no money, no dough, no friends because he had isolated me. You stayed because staying felt safer than leaving, Patricia said. And you were not wrong to feel that way. Look what happened when you finally did leave. He is fighting you with everything he has. The pizza arrived. They ate in near silence, the weight of the situation pressing down on everyone. Maggie's phone, now turned back on, buzzed constantly. Messages from numbers she did not recognize. She finally looked at them. Most were from reporters, wanting comments, wanting her story, but some were different. I left last week. Your story gave me courage. Thank you. 23 years. I stayed 23 years. I wish I had been as brave as you. My sister is still with her abuser. I sent her the news article about you. Maybe she will finally listen. Message after message. From women Maggie would never meet. Lives she would never fully know she had touched. I did not want to be a symbol, Maggie said. I just wanted to survive. Sometimes survival is the most radical act, Julia said, in a world that wants women to stay quiet. Night fell, the hotel room crowded with people who refused to leave Maggie alone. Patricia and Julia took the pull-out cot. Ryan slept in the chair again, his self-appointed guard duty. Maggie lay in bed, hands on her belly, the baby active now, kicking, rolling, running out of room as she grew. Just hold on a little longer, Maggie whispered. A few more weeks, then you will be here. Safe, free, ours. The baby kicked in response, as if agreeing. Maggie closed her eyes, exhausted, terrified, but no longer alone, and that made all the difference. The hotel room clock read 2:17 in the morning. Maggie could not sleep. The baby had been kicking for hours, restless, uncomfortable, both of them running out of room in their respective prisons. Patricia snored softly from the pull-out cot. Ryan sprawled in the chair by the door. Julia had finally gone home around midnight to shower and feed her cat. Maggie sat by the window, watching the parking lot, the street lights casting yellow pools on the pavement, a few cars coming and going, late shift workers, insomniacs, people living their lives while hers had imploded. She kept thinking about Caroline Chambers, about Elliot's mother defending him so fiercely, making excuses, blaming the victim. Had Caroline also been abused? Maggie wondered. Had she normalized violence so thoroughly that she could not see it in her own son? Or was she simply protecting her investment? The family name, the business, the reputation that money and power had built over 3 generations. Maggie's phone lay on the nightstand. She picked it up, scrolled through the messages from strangers, the women who had reached out. One stood out. My husband killed me 3 years ago. He almost killed me. The doctor said another inch and his fist would have hit my temple instead of my cheekbone. I would have died. I was 7 months pregnant. Just like you. I wish someone had stopped him before that night, before it got that bad. You stopped yours. You saved your baby. You saved yourself. I'm so proud of you, even though we will never meet. Maggie saved the message, added it to a folder she had started. Evidence, proof, validation that she was not crazy, not overreacting, not the problem. The automatic cleaning she had started earlier still bothered her. The way she had straightened the hotel room, aligned the remote controls, folded the towels even though housekeeping would replace them. The compulsion to control something, anything, when everything else was chaos. That was trauma talking. She knew that intellectually, but knowing did not make the impulse go away. A soft knock on the door made Maggie jump. Ryan was up instantly, hand on the doorknob, body tense. "Who is it?" he called quietly. "Julia, I could not sleep. Figured you could not either." Ryan opened the door. Julia entered carrying a bag from the 24-hour diner down the street. "Pancakes," she said, "and bacon, and coffee even though you cannot have it. But the rest of us need it." They sat on the floor between the beds, eating breakfast at 2:30 in the morning, whispering so Patricia could sleep. "Do you remember the night before your wedding?" Julia asked Maggie. Maggie did remember. Barely. "You called me at 2 in the morning," Julia continued. "You said you thought you were making a mistake. Then you laughed it off, said it was cold feet, normal pre-wedding jitters." Maggie set down her fork. "It was not cold feet. I know. And I knew then. But I did not push. I thought you would figure it out, that you would come to me if you needed help." "I did need help," Maggie admitted, "but I did not know how to ask. And Elliot was so good at making me think I was the problem. That my doubts were character flaws." "Gaslighting," Julia said, the word heavy with meaning. "Yes, he would tell me I said things I never said, that I agreed to things I never agreed to, that I was remembering things wrong." "The first year of your marriage," Julia pressed gently. "When did the physical abuse start?" Maggie thought back. 3 months after the wedding, I spilled wine on his mother's carpet. Expensive white carpet. He grabbed my arm so hard it bruised, said I was clumsy, embarrassing, that I needed to be more careful. And you believed him. I believed it was an accident, that he did not mean to hurt me, that I really was clumsy." "When did it escalate?" 6 months in, he slapped me. First time, I said no to something. I do not even remember what, just that I disagreed with him about something minor. He slapped me, then immediately started apologizing, crying, said he did not know what came over him, bought me flowers, took me to an expensive restaurant, promised it would never happen again. But it did happen again. 2 weeks later, then a week after that, then it became regular. Once a week, twice a week, always followed by apologies and gifts and promises. Julia listened without judgment, just witnessed, held space for the truth. "The baby," Julia said carefully, "when you got pregnant, did it get better or worse?" "Worse, so much worse." He was excited about the pregnancy at first, proud, showing everyone the ultrasound pictures, acting like the devoted father-to-be. And in private? In private, he was angry. I was sick constantly. Morning sickness that lasted all day. I could not keep food down. I lost weight. He said I was dramatic, exaggerating, that I needed to try harder. "Did he hit you while you were pregnant?" Maggie nodded. "The miscarriage, 8 months ago, before this pregnancy, I told everyone I fell down the stairs, but really he shoved me. During an argument, I fell, started bleeding, lost the baby at 6 weeks. Julia's hand found Maggie's, squeezed tight. He blamed me for that too. Said if I had been more careful, more calm, less emotional, the baby would have survived." "That is not how miscarriages work," Julia said fiercely. "I know that now. But then, I believed him. Spent months thinking I killed my own baby through negligence." They sat in silence, the weight of Maggie's confession hanging between them. "This pregnancy," Julia said carefully. "Charlotte, did he want her?" "He wanted a boy. Was disappointed when we found out she was a girl. His face when the ultrasound tech said daughter. He tried to hide it, but I saw." "Did that make the abuse worse?" "Yes, he started saying I did it on purpose, that I somehow chose to have a girl despite him. It does not make sense, I know that. But in his mind, I had failed him by not producing a male heir. The absurdity of it would be funny if it were not so tragic." "You know none of this was your fault," Julia said. Not a question, a statement, a fact Maggie needed to hear repeatedly until she believed it. I am starting to know that, Maggie replied. Somewhere along the way, I became invisible. I stopped being a person and became a thing he owned. I do not even recognize myself anymore. But you are finding yourself again, Julia countered. Right now, in this hotel room. You are remembering who Maggie Sullivan is, separate from Mrs. Elliot Chambers. Maggie thought about that. Who was she before Elliot? Before the abuse? Before the fear? She had been a marketing professional, good at her job, successful. Elliot had convinced her to quit after the wedding, said his income was enough, that she should focus on being a wife, planning their future. She had been social, friends everywhere, always planning gatherings, game nights, book clubs. Elliot slowly eliminated all of that, said her friends were immature, a waste of time, that she should focus on building their life together. She had been confident, believed in her own worth, her own judgment. Elliot systematically destroyed that, made her question everything, second-guess every decision. I used to be funny, Maggie said suddenly. I made people laugh. I was quick with jokes, sarcastic. Elliot hated that about me, said it was unbecoming, that wives of successful men should be dignified. You are still funny, Julia said. You are still all those things. He just buried them. But they are still there. The baby kicked hard. Maggie's hand went to her belly automatically. She is running out of room, Maggie said, getting ready to come out and meet the world. What kind of world do you want for her? Julia asked. One where she never doubts her worth, where she knows she can say no, where she understands that love does not hurt. That safety is not negotiable. Then that is the world you build for her, Julia said simply. Starting now. Patricia woke around 5 in the morning, sat up from the pull-out cot, saw her daughter and Julia still awake on the floor. You two need sleep, Patricia said, but she made no move to send them to bed, just joined them on the floor, accepting the offered pancakes and terrible hotel room coffee. Tell me about my father, Maggie said to Patricia. Was he ever violent? Did he ever hurt you? Patricia considered the question carefully. Your father was a good man, flawed, human, but good. He never raised a hand to me, not once in 28 years of marriage. How did you know, Maggie asked, when you were dating? How did you know he would not turn out like Elliot? I did not know for certain, Patricia admitted. Nobody can predict the future, but I watched how he treated others, service workers, people with less power than him, animals, children. Your father was kind across the board, not just to me, not just when someone was watching, but consistently, to everyone. Elliot was charming, Maggie said, to everyone at first. The hotel staff loved him. He donated to charities, was on nonprofit boards. Everyone thought he was wonderful. But that was performance, Patricia said, not character. True character shows in private, when nobody is watching, when there are no consequences. I should have seen that, Maggie said. Should have recognized the difference. Abusers are expert manipulators, Patricia countered. They show you exactly what you want to see, until you are too invested to leave easily. That is not your failure. That is their skill. Ryan stirred in the chair, woke with a start, saw everyone awake. What time is it? He mumbled. 5:30, Julia said. We are having a feelings party. Want to join? Ryan stretched, his back popping from sleeping upright. What are we feeling about? Everything, Maggie said, all of it. Ryan came to sit with them, the four of them in a circle on the hotel room floor. Connected, present, safe. I am angry, Ryan said suddenly, at myself for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting you. You could not have known, Maggie said. I hid it well. I should have known. I am your brother. I should have seen the signs. The signs were subtle, Patricia said. That is how abusers operate, slowly, incrementally, boiling the frog. I noticed you stopped visiting, Ryan continued, stopped answering calls. But when I asked, you always had an excuse. Work, tired, busy. I believed you. Because I needed you to believe me, Maggie explained. If you had pushed harder, Elliot would have punished me. isolated me further. Sometimes not knowing was protection. That should not have been your burden to carry, Ryan said fiercely. But it was, and I survived it. And now we are here together. The sun started rising, light creeping through the hotel window, morning coming whether they were ready or not. The hearing for the protective order is in a few hours, Rebecca had said yesterday. But that is just the beginning. The real battle comes with divorce and custody. Maggie felt the weight of that approaching battle. The legal fees, the court dates, the evaluations and testimonies and endless documentation. But she also felt something else, something unexpected. Hope, fragile, uncertain, but there. Because for the first time in 2 years, she was not facing the future alone. She had her mother, her brother, her best friend, her daughter growing inside her. And she had herself, the Maggie Sullivan who existed before Elliot, who still existed underneath the fear. That was worth fighting for. 3 days passed in the hotel room. 3 days of lawyers and paperwork and endless planning. Maggie's due date loomed 4 weeks away, close enough to feel urgent, far enough to feel eternal. Rebecca brought more witnesses, more women from Elliot's past. Amanda Carlson arrived on Wednesday, 32 years old, dated Elliot 3 years ago, right before he met Maggie. He choked me, Amanda said without preamble, sitting across from Maggie in the hotel room. During an argument about moving in together, his hands around my throat, I saw stars, thought I was dying. What made him stop? Maggie asked quietly. My neighbor heard the noise, started banging on the wall. Elliot let go, left. I filed a police report that night. And then, his lawyer came 2 days later, offered me money to drop the charges, $50,000, sign a non-disclosure agreement, disappear. You took it, Maggie said, understanding, not judging. I was terrified, Amanda admitted, and $50,000 was more money than I had ever seen. It felt like winning and losing at the same time. Why are you here now? Maggie asked, breaking the agreement. Because you did not take his money, did not sign his papers. You fought back. And if I can help you win, maybe my silence meant something after all. Sarah Whitman came next, 34, Elliot's college girlfriend 15 years ago. He was 23, Sarah said, entitled, angry. His father had just made him VP of Chambers Industries. All that power and no emotional regulation. What happened between you? He wanted to get engaged. I said I wanted to finish grad school first, focus on my career. He shoved me into a wall, grabbed my hair, told me I was ungrateful, that no other man would put up with my ambition. How did you get away? I transferred schools, changed my phone number, moved across the country. I was 22 and running for my life from a man who thought he owned me. Did you ever report it? To campus security, they did nothing. Elliot's family donated millions to the university. I was just another girl with an accusation. 3 women, 3 similar stories, 15 years of pattern and practice. This is what we present, Rebecca said. Not just one bad night in a hotel room, but a lifetime of abuse, multiple victims, clear evidence of escalation. Sam had built a comprehensive timeline. Every documented incident, every woman, every payment, every non-disclosure agreement. Elliot's lawyer will argue these women are motivated by money, Sam explained, that they are lying for a payout. We need to show they are breaking their agreements, risking legal consequences. To tell the truth, Maggie looked at the 3 women who had come forward, who had spoken despite the costs. Thank you, she said simply, for being brave when I could not be. You are brave now, Sarah replied. That is what matters. The phone rang, Maggie's new number. Only a few people had it. Dr. Foster. Maggie, I need you to come to the hospital. Your blood pressure is elevated. The baby's movements have decreased. I want to monitor you. Fear spiked sharp and immediate. Is Charlotte okay? I think so, but stress is affecting both of you. Let me check you out. Rule out any complications. They drove to the hospital. Maggie in back, Patricia holding her hand, Ryan driving too fast. The triage nurse brought Maggie back immediately. Blood pressure cuff, fetal monitor, IV port just in case. Dr. Foster arrived within minutes, calm but focused. Your blood pressure is 140 over 90, she said. Elevated but not dangerous yet. Let us watch it. See if it comes down with rest. The fetal monitor showed Charlotte's heartbeat. Steady, strong, but Dr. Foster frowned at something. What? Maggie demanded. What is wrong? The baby is showing signs of stress. Her movements are decreased. Heart rate variability is lower than I would like. What does that mean? It means the stress you are under is affecting her. Your body is in fight or flight mode constantly. The cortisol levels, the adrenaline, she feels all of it. Maggie's hands went to her belly, protective. I am trying. I am doing everything I can. I know, Dr. Foster said gently, but your body does not know the difference between physical danger and emotional danger. It just knows you are not safe. Because I am not safe, Maggie said. Elliot is out there, planning, preparing to take her from me. Has he violated the protective order? Not directly, but his mother came, his lawyer calls, they are working around it. Dr. Foster made notes in the chart. I am documenting all of this. The stress, the harassment, the effect on your health and the baby's health. It will help your case. Rebecca arrived at the hospital within the hour. She found Maggie still hooked to monitors. I just got a call from Elliot's lawyer, Rebecca said. They want to settle. Maggie sat up. Settle what? Everything. Divorce, custody, support. They are offering full financial settlement in exchange for shared custody and an endo. What kind of settlement? Generous, the house, half the marital assets, college fund for Charlotte, $2 million total. The number hung in the air. And in exchange, Maggie asked carefully, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, never speak publicly about the abuse. Elliot gets 50% custody, unsupervised visitation once the baby is 6 months old. Absolutely not, Maggie said immediately. He does not get unsupervised access to my daughter. I told them you would say that, Rebecca said, but I needed to present the offer. What happens if I refuse? They go to trial, fight for full custody, claim you are an unfit mother, use their resources to destroy you in court. Let them try, Maggie said, her voice hard, final. I will not give him access to Charlotte. I do not care how much money they offer. Rebecca smiled, slow, satisfied. That is exactly what I hoped you would say. Why? Because their offer shows weakness. They know their case is terrible. The evidence is overwhelming, so they are trying to buy you off, make the problem disappear like they did with the others. But I am not disappearing, Maggie said. No, you are not. Dr. Foster returned. Your blood pressure is coming down, 130 over 85. Better. I want you to stay a few more hours, rest, let the baby relax. Maggie lay back against the pillows, the monitor beeping steadily, Charlotte's heartbeat filling the room. She thought about the settlement offer, $2 million, financial security. No more worrying about money or housing or how to support a baby alone. But at what cost? Letting Elliot have access to Charlotte? Letting him shape her daughter's understanding of what men should be? What relationships should look like? No amount of money was worth that. Maggie put her hand on her belly, felt Charlotte kick in response. We are going to fight, Maggie whispered, and we are going to win, because love is not control, and family is not ownership. And I will protect you even if it costs me everything. The baby kicked again, harder, as if agreeing. Rebecca's phone buzzed. She checked it. Her expression shifted. What now? Maggie asked, exhausted by the constant developments. Chambers Industries Board just held an emergency meeting, Rebecca said slowly. They voted to remove Elliot as CEO effective immediately. Maggie absorbed this. Because of the charges? Because of the publicity, the media attention, the pattern of behavior David Morrison documented. They are trying to protect the company. So Elliot is losing everything, Maggie realized. Not everything. He still has money, assets, but his position, his power, his reputation, those are crumbling. And a man like Elliot, Maggie knew, would not handle that well. He will blame me, she said quietly, for all of it. The arrest, the protective order, the bombardment. He will see me as the cause. which makes you more dangerous to him, Patricia said from the doorway. Not less. The protective order is still in effect, Rebecca assured her, and we are building the case. When we go before Judge Matthews for the custody hearing, we will have everything, every witness, every document, every piece of evidence. When is that hearing? Maggie asked. 2 weeks after Charlotte's due date, assuming she arrives on schedule. 4 weeks until the due date, then 2 more weeks, 6 weeks total until the final battle. Maggie could do 6 weeks. She had survived 2 years. She could survive 6 more weeks. The hospital released her that evening with strict instructions. Bed rest, limited stress, monitor blood pressure twice daily, as if limited stress was possible while fighting for her life and her daughter's future. Back at the hotel, Julia had brought supplies, aromatherapy candles, lavender oil, meditation recordings. The pregnancy app says stress reduction is important, Julia explained, so we are going to try everything. They spent the evening in relative quiet, Patricia reading aloud from a mystery novel, Ryan watching a basketball game with the volume low, Julia doing yoga beside the bed. Maggie lay still, hands on belly, breathing, trying to calm her nervous system. The baby responded, settling, her movements gentler, less frantic. She knows when you are calm, Dr. Foster had said. Babies in utero sense everything. Your emotions, your safety, your stress. Give her peace now so she knows what it feels like. Maggie tried, closed her eyes, imagined a future where Charlotte was safe, where they both were safe, where Elliot was just a bad memory instead of a present threat. She imagined a small apartment, just the two of them. Simple, peaceful. Charlotte playing on the floor, laughing, growing, free from violence and fear. That future was worth any fight. The investigative article dropped on Monday morning, front page of the digital newspaper, Metro section of the print edition. The headline, Behind Closed Doors, CEO's Pattern of Abuse Spans 15 Years. Patricia Reed's byline, 20 years of investigative journalism, specialist in domestic violence cases. Rebecca had given her access to everything. With Maggie's permission, every document, every witness statement, every piece of evidence. The article spared nothing. It detailed Sarah Whitman's story from college, Michelle Bradford's broken engagement, Amanda Carlson's near strangulation, 4 other women who spoke on condition of anonymity, and Maggie, front and center, the woman who had finally made charges stick. The article included excerpts from the hotel security footage, photos of Maggie's injuries, statements from hotel staff who had witnessed concerning behavior during previous stays. David Morrison provided business documentation, Elliot's behavior at work, the outbursts, the threats, the pattern of escalation. By noon, the story had gone viral, picked up by national news outlets, shared millions of times on social media. The tide shifted. New headlines appeared. Chambers Industries CEO removed following abuse allegations. Multiple women come forward against wealthy executive. Hotel security footage contradicts abusers' claims. Maggie's phone, still turned off most of the time, filled with messages when she checked it. From strangers, "You are so brave. Thank you for speaking up. My sister is still with her abuser. I sent her your story." From people she had not heard from in years, old college friends reaching out, former co-workers, distant relatives, all saying the same thing. "I had no idea. I am so sorry. How can I help?" Julia sat with Maggie reading through the messages. "People care," Julia said. "They want to help." "Because it is public now," Maggie replied. "When it was private, nobody cared. Nobody noticed." "That is not fair," Julia protested. "You hid it well. Elliot made sure of that." "I know, but still, where were all these people 2 years ago, when I was actually living it?" The question hung heavy, because the truth was uncomfortable. People did not want to see abuse, did not want to acknowledge it. Easier to assume everything was fine, that the smiling couple in public was the truth instead of the performance. Rebecca called at 2 in the afternoon, her voice excited, triumphant. "Elliot's lawyers just contacted me," she said. "They want to negotiate." "I thought they wanted to settle before," Maggie said. That was before the article, before public opinion turned against him. Now they are desperate. What are they offering? Full custody to you, supervised visitation for Elliot, no NDA. He admits to the abuse in court record. Maggie sat very still, processing. That is everything we asked for. Almost everything. They still want child support kept reasonable, and they want the divorce finalized quickly. No drawn-out trial. Why the change? Because Elliot is hemorrhaging money and reputation by the hour. The longer this drags on, the worse it gets for him. His lawyers finally convinced him that cutting his losses is the smart play. Do you think he agreed, Maggie asked, or is this just his lawyers? Rebecca paused. I think his lawyers are making decisions for him at this point. Elliot is too angry to think strategically, which makes him dangerous, Maggie said. Yes, which is why we are keeping the protective order in place, regardless of settlement terms. They met at Rebecca's office the next morning. Maggie, Rebecca, Sam, and Thomas Ashford representing Elliot. Elliot was not present. My client felt his presence would be counterproductive, Thomas explained. Translation, Elliot could not be trusted not to threaten Maggie in person. Thomas laid out the terms, typed formally, legal language throughout, sole physical and legal custody to Margaret Ann Sullivan. Elliot James Chambers waives all custodial rights. Supervised visitation allowed at child's best interest in mother's discretion. Child support of $5,000 monthly through third-party trust. Elliot admits domestic violence occurred in court record. No non-disclosure agreement required. Restraining order remains permanent. Divorce finalized in 6 months as soon as legally permissible. Why is he agreeing to this? Maggie asked. This is everything I wanted. Thomas looked uncomfortable. My client has been advised that fighting would be expensive and futile. The evidence is overwhelming. Public opinion is against him. Chambers Industries has threatened to withhold his family trust if he continues to create negative publicity. His own family is abandoning him, Maggie realized. His family is protecting their business interests, Thomas corrected. But yes, he has few allies remaining. Maggie read through the document carefully, looking for catches, hidden clauses, ways Elliot might still exert control. This says supervised visitation at mother's discretion, Maggie pointed out. What stops him from seeking unsupervised later? He would need to petition the court, Rebecca explained, prove rehabilitation, complete anger management programs, years of supervised visits with no incidents. It is possible but unlikely. I wanted in writing that he cannot seek changes for 5 years minimum, Maggie said, and that any future changes require court approval and psychological evaluation. Thomas made notes. I will present that to my client. I also want Charlotte's college fund fully funded now, not promises, actual money in an account only I can access. The amount? $500,000. In a 529 plan, my name only. Thomas winced but nodded. Anything else? Yes, I want him to pay for therapy, for me and for Charlotte as she grows. Whatever we need, for as long as we need it. That could be indefinite. Exactly. Trauma does not have a timeline. Thomas sighed, but he wrote it down. I will present all of this, but Mrs. Chambers, I need you to understand. My client is volatile right now, losing everything. These additional demands might push him to refuse settlement entirely. Then he refuses, Maggie said, her voice steady, strong. And we go to trial, and I tell a jury everything he did to me, in detail, with evidence. Let him choose. Thomas left to call Elliot. The office fell silent. You were incredible, Sam said, asking for exactly what you deserve. I am tired of being reasonable, Maggie replied, tired of making myself smaller so men can feel bigger. If Elliot wants this to go away, he can pay for the damage he caused. 20 minutes later, Thomas returned. He agreed, Thomas said, shock evident in his voice. To everything. College fund, therapy costs, 5-year wait on any custody modification. All of it. In writing? Rebecca pressed. I am drafting it now. They finalized the settlement terms that afternoon. Every detail specified, every contingency covered. Sam reviewed every line with the precision of someone who had seen too many loopholes exploited. This is airtight, Sam confirmed. If he violates any term, you can take him back to court immediately. Maggie signed her name, Margaret Ann Sullivan, dropping Chambers entirely, reclaiming herself. It is done, Rebecca said. You are free. But Maggie did not feel free yet, would not feel free until Charlotte was born, until the restraining order was tested, until enough time passed that she could breathe without looking over her shoulder. They left Rebecca's office just before sunset, the city lights coming on, beautiful and indifferent to the small human drama that had just concluded. Patricia was waiting in the parking lot. She took one look at Maggie's face and knew. It is over? She asked. The legal part, Maggie said. The rest will take longer. They drove back to the hotel in silence. Maggie watched the city pass, this place that had been home, that now felt unfamiliar, like she was seeing it for the first time. At the hotel, Ryan had ordered Chinese food. Julia had brought champagne, non-alcoholic for Maggie. We are celebrating, Julia announced. You won. I survived, Maggie corrected. That is not the same as winning. It is better than winning, Patricia said firmly. Winning is temporary. Surviving is permanent. They ate together, the cheap hotel room transformed into something like home through the presence of people who truly cared. Maggie thought about Elliot, somewhere in the city, angry, humiliated, stripped of power. She felt no victory, no satisfaction, just exhaustion and relief that the worst was over. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then decided to look. A text message. You destroyed me. I hope you are happy. But remember, that baby is half mine. You cannot erase me completely. Maggie's hands went cold. She showed Rebecca who had stayed for dinner. Forward that to me immediately, Rebecca said. That is a violation of the no contact order. He sent it from a burner phone, Sam noted, trying to avoid consequences. But we have the message, Rebecca countered. Time-stamped. After settlement, clear violation. What happens now, Maggie asked. I contact his lawyer, file a motion. He could face contempt charges. Will it matter? Maggie asked quietly. He has so much money, so many lawyers. What are contempt charges to a man like him? Rebecca looked at her seriously. They matter because they establish pattern, show he cannot follow rules. When we go back before Judge Matthews, this will matter. Maggie deleted the text but knew it lived forever in screenshots and evidence files. He cannot let go, she said, even after everything. He has to have the last word. Men like him never let go willingly, Patricia said. They have to be forced, and even then they fight. That night, Maggie lay in bed listening to Charlotte's movements. The baby was getting stronger, more active, running out of room as she prepared for birth. 3 weeks until the due date. 3 weeks of holding on, of staying safe, of counting down. Maggie put her hands on her belly, whispered to her daughter, when you come out, it will just be us, and Grandma, and Uncle Ryan, and Aunt Julia, people who actually love us, who chose to be here. That is what real family looks like. Not blood obligation, but choice and presence and love. Charlotte kicked in response. A strong, determined kick. You are a fighter, Maggie said. Just like your mama. We are going to be okay. Both of us, I promise. And for the first time in 2 years, Maggie believed her own promise. The days blurred together after the settlement. Waiting, preparing. Trying to build a life in the space between hotel room and unknown future. Rebecca helped Maggie find an apartment. Small 1-bedroom, top floor of an older building, $700 a month, affordable on child support, safe, quiet, available immediately. They moved in 1 week after the settlement, Patricia, Ryan, and Julia carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs, furniture from secondhand stores, kitchen supplies from Target. Nothing fancy, nothing that reminded her of the house she had left behind. The apartment felt huge after the hotel room, empty, echoing. Maggie stood in the living room and cried. Not from sadness, from relief. This was hers, her name on the lease, her choice, her safe space that Elliot could never touch. Patricia made curtains from fabric remnants. Ryan built shelves. Julia organized the kitchen. By evening, the apartment looked like home. Maggie set up the nursery in the bedroom corner. Bassinet she found on Facebook Marketplace. Changing table from a garage sale. Tiny clothes washed and folded, waiting for Charlotte. 2 weeks until the due date. Dr. Foster saw Maggie twice a week now, monitoring blood pressure, checking the baby, making sure the stress had not caused complications. Your blood pressure is normal, Dr. Foster said at the latest appointment. 120/78, perfect. And Charlotte looks great. Good size, good movement, strong heartbeat. I am sleeping better, Maggie admitted, knowing he cannot find me, cannot contact me. Except he did, Dr. Foster reminded her gently. The text message. Once, and his lawyer shut that down, made it clear any more contact would bring consequences. How do you feel about seeing him at the hospital when Charlotte is born? Maggie had not thought about that. Will he be there? The settlement gives him supervised visitation rights. He cannot be barred from the hospital entirely, but we can control when and how he visits. I do not want him there, Maggie said immediately. Not in the delivery room, not in recovery, not until I am ready. Then we make that clear in your birth certificate. You have control over who is present. The hospital will enforce your wishes. Maggie added that to the growing list. Birth plan, hospital bags, emergency contacts, all the logistics of bringing a life into the world. Patricia took her shopping for baby essentials, diapers, wipes, onesies in newborn and 0 to 3 month sizes. You cannot predict what size she will be, Patricia said. Babies come in all different sizes. Better to have both. They bought nursing supplies, bottles just in case, a breast pump, formula as backup. Everything Maggie might need in those first crucial weeks. I am scared, Maggie admitted in the baby aisle of Target, about doing this alone. You are not alone, Patricia said firmly. You have me, Ryan, Julia, Dr. Foster, Rebecca, a whole community. But at 3 in the morning when she is crying and I do not know why, then I will be alone. Every mother feels that fear, Patricia said, even with a partner. Babies are terrifying, but you will figure it out. Mother's always trying, Wahamo. Julia threw a baby shower at the apartment, small gathering, just close friends and family, games and tea and tiny clothes. Maggie opened gifts, practical things, blankets, books, a white noise machine, nothing elaborate, nothing expensive, just thoughtful items from people who cared. Speech, someone called out. Maggie stood awkwardly, hands on her very pregnant belly. Thank you, she said simply, for being here, for standing with me through everything, for not abandoning me when it would have been easier to look away. We love you, Julia said, tears in her eyes. I know, and I love you too, all of you. The shower ended at 8. Everyone left except Patricia, who stayed to help clean up. Your father would have been so proud of you, Patricia said, washing dishes in Maggie's tiny kitchen. Would he? Maggie asked. I stayed with an abuser for 2 years. That seems like the opposite of something to be proud of. You survived an abuser for 2 years, Patricia corrected, and then you got out, and then you fought back. That is incredibly brave. It does not feel brave. It feels like I barely escaped with my life. That is what bravery is, not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. Maggie thought about that, about bravery, about survival, about the difference between the two. I am not going to tell Charlotte about him, Maggie decided suddenly. Not when she is little. Maybe not ever unless she asks. That is your choice to make, Patricia said carefully. But children have a way of figuring things out, finding the truth even when we try to hide it. Then I will tell her age-appropriate versions, when she is old enough to understand. But I will not let him define her childhood. She deserves better than that. 1 week until the due date, Maggie nested, the pregnancy books called it that, the overwhelming urge to clean and organize and prepare. She scrubbed floors, alphabetized books, organized the kitchen 3 different ways. This is normal, Dr. Foster assured her. Your body is preparing, getting ready. Maggie's body felt ready, huge, uncomfortable. The baby taking up every available inch. Her ribs ached, Her back hurt. Sleep came in 2-hour increments between bathroom trips. But Charlotte was healthy, active, ready to meet the world. Ryan stayed over most nights now, sleeping on the couch, standing guard even though the locks were changed, and Elliot did not know the address. Just in case, Ryan said. Not elaborating on what just in case meant, they both knew. Just in case Elliot figured out where she lived, just in case he violated the restraining order again. Just in case the anger and humiliation drove him to something desperate. 3 days before the due date, the article won an award, Patricia Reed's investigative piece, National Journalism Prize for Public Service Reporting. The award citation praised Reed for bringing attention to the hidden epidemic of domestic violence among wealthy and powerful men, for giving voice to multiple victims, for holding the privileged accountable. Patricia Reed called Maggie personally. "This is your story," Reed said. "Your courage made this possible." "I just told the truth," Maggie replied. "You are the one who made people listen. The truth only matters when people hear it. Thank you for trusting me with yours." The award brought renewed media attention, more interviews requests, more people wanting Maggie's story. She declined them all. "Later," she told Rebecca. "Maybe later. Right now, I just want to have my baby in peace." 2 days before the due date. Maggie woke at 3 in the morning, not from discomfort, from certainty. Today was the day. She did not know how she knew, just that her body was preparing. The baby had dropped lower. The pressure changed. Something fundamental shifted. She did not wake Patricia or Ryan, just lay in bed, hands on belly, breathing. "Are you ready?" she whispered to Charlotte. "Because I am as ready as I am ever going to be." The first contraction came at 6 in the morning. Mild, uncomfortable, gone within 30 seconds. Maggie started timing them. The pregnancy app made it easy. Track start time, track end time, watch for patterns. 7 minutes apart, then 6, then 8. Irregular. False labor, maybe. By noon, the contractions were consistent. Every 5 minutes. Stronger. Impossible to ignore. "Time to go," Patricia said, her nurse voice activating. Calm, efficient, in control. They drove to the hospital, Maggie in back, breathing through contractions, Patricia timing them. Ryan driving like every second mattered. The hospital admitted her immediately. Labor and delivery, room 12, monitors attached. IV started, Dr. Foster notified. "You are 4 centimeters dilated," the nurse said after checking. "Active labor. This baby is coming today." Patricia held one hand. Julia, who arrived within the hour, held the other. Ryan paced outside, too nervous to sit still. The contractions intensified. 5 centimeters, 6, 7. The pain overwhelming everything else. "I cannot do this," Maggie gasped between contractions. "You are doing it," Patricia said firmly. "You are already doing it." 8 centimeters, 9. Dr. Foster arrived, scrubbed in, ready. "Almost there," Dr. Foster said. "1 more centimeter, and we push." Maggie focused on breathing, on surviving each contraction, on getting to the other side. 10 centimeters, complete dilation. "Time to push," Dr. Foster said. Maggie pushed, screamed, pushed again. The pain beyond anything she had imagined. "I see the head," Dr. Foster said. "1 more big push." Maggie gathered every ounce of strength, everything she had survived, everything she had fought for, and pushed. The cry. Small, fierce, alive. "It is a girl," Dr. Foster said. Unnecessary announcement. They already knew. They placed Charlotte on Maggie's chest. Warm, wet, perfect. "Hi, baby," Maggie whispered through tears. "Hi, Charlotte. I am your mom. I have got you. I have got you." Charlotte's eyes opened, dark, searching, finding her mother's face. In that moment, everything else fell away. The abuse, the court battles, the fear, all of it distant and unimportant compared to this. Her daughter, safe, alive, free. Maggie counted fingers. 10, counted toes. 10, checked every inch, making sure Charlotte was whole. was healthy, was untouched by the violence that marked her conception and gestation. She is perfect, Dr. Foster confirmed. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 inches long, healthy in every way. Patricia cried, Julia cried. Ryan, when he was finally allowed in, broke down completely at the sight of his niece. The nurse took photos, the first family pictures, Maggie holding Charlotte, Patricia beside them, Julia and Ryan crowding in. Love in every frame. Do we notify the father? The nurse asked delicately. No, Maggie said, her voice strong, final. Not yet. Maybe not today. I will decide when I am ready. The nurse made a note, respected the boundary. They moved Maggie to recovery. Private room, just her and Charlotte and her chosen family. Maggie tried to nurse, clumsy at first. Charlotte searching, frustrated, then finding the latch, beginning to feed. Natural instinct, the lactation consultant said. She knows what to do. You both do. Hours passed. Visitors came and went. Rebecca stopped by with flowers. Sam brought a stuffed animal. Dr. Foster checked in 3 times. How are you feeling? Dr. Foster asked. Exhausted, Maggie admitted. Overwhelmed, happy, terrified, everything at once. That is normal. New motherhood is intense. It is more than that, Maggie said quietly. I keep waiting for something bad to happen, for someone to take her, for this to be taken away. That is trauma talking, the hypervigilance. It will take time to feel safe. How much time? As much as you need. There is no schedule for healing. Night fell. Patricia and Julia went home reluctantly. Ryan stayed, sleeping in the chair beside Maggie's bed, standing guard one more time. Maggie held Charlotte, 6 hours old, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the complicated world she had entered. You will never know fear because of me, Maggie whispered. You will never doubt you are loved. You will never question your worth. I promise you that. Charlotte's hand gripped Maggie's finger, tight, strong, trusting. And Maggie felt something shift inside her. Not healing, not yet, but the beginning of it. The first breath of freedom after years of holding it in. She had done it, had escaped, had fought, had survived. And now came the hardest part, learning to live instead of just survive. Discharge came 2 days after Charlotte's birth. Dr. Foster reviewed instructions carefully. Feeding schedules, warning signs, when to call for help. Ryan loaded the car with hospital wags and gifts. Maggie sat in back beside Charlotte's car seat, unable to believe this tiny human was hers, depended entirely on her. The apartment felt different with Charlotte in it, alive, full, actually home. Maggie set up the bassinet beside her bed, changed Charlotte's first diaper at home, nursed her first feeding in her own space. Everything felt surreal. Patricia stayed the first 3 nights, teaching, building Maggie's confidence. Babies tell you what they need, Patricia said at 3 in the morning. Both awake, Charlotte crying, food, clean diaper, comfort, sleep. You just have to learn their language. What if I cannot? Maggie asked, exhausted, doubting everything. You will. Every mother does. By day 4, Maggie was alone with Charlotte. The silence felt enormous. No one else to ask, no one else to help. Charlotte woke every 2 hours, hungry, demanding. Maggie learned to function on fragments of sleep, to nurse half asleep, to change diapers in the dark. The first week blurred together, feeding, changing, sleeping in 15-minute pieces. The world outside felt dangerous. Better to stay home where she controlled everything. Week 2 brought visitors, Patricia daily, Ryan several times, Julia when work allowed. They brought groceries, cooked meals, held Charlotte away so Maggie could shower. You are doing great, Julia said. I feel terrified constantly. That is normal. New mom anxiety. Week 3 brought the call Maggie dreaded. Elliot's lawyer is requesting his first supervised visit, Rebecca said. Maggie's body tensed. Already? You do not have to agree, but he has legal rights. I cannot let him near her. You do not have to decide now. Think about it. Maggie's therapist helped her process. The visit would be supervised. He could not hurt her. Physical hurt is not the only kind. but withholding access gives him grounds to petition the court. Maggie wanted to refuse, to disappear with Charlotte somewhere Elliot could never find them. But that was not realistic. 6 months, Maggie decided. I need 6 more months first. Rebecca accepted this, filed the response. Elliot would have to wait. Month 2 brought routine. Charlotte sleeping longer stretches, Maggie's body slowly recovering, her mind slowly calming. She started leaving the apartment. Short trips, building confidence. People smiled at Charlotte everywhere. Month 3 brought Elliot's second request, more insistent, threatening court. One visit, Maggie agreed finally. 2 hours maximum, professional supervisor. Detailed report required. The visit was scheduled for Tuesday. Maggie would not be present. Patricia would drop Charlotte off. Ryan would pick her up. Maggie spent those 2 hours sick with anxiety, pacing, unable to breathe properly. Ryan returned right on time, Charlotte sleeping peacefully in her car seat. How was she? Maggie demanded. Fine. Slept the whole time. The supervisor said Elliot held her maybe 10 minutes. Then she fussed. He gave her back, spent the rest just watching. The supervisor's report confirmed it. Subject appeared nervous around infant, maintained appropriate boundaries, no concerns observed. He had no idea what to do with an actual baby, Maggie told Rebecca. He wanted the idea, not the reality. The visits fell into pattern. Every other Saturday, Elliot would arrive, hold Charlotte briefly, look uncomfortable, leave after 90 minutes claiming work obligations. There is no bond forming, the supervisor reported after the 4th visit. No real engagement. Maggie felt unexpected relief. Elliot was proving himself irrelevant. Month 4 brought stability. Charlotte sleeping through the night. Maggie started working part-time, marketing consulting from home, building her professional identity again. Month 5 brought unexpected news. Chambers Industries sold. Elliot's family fortune liquidated. Then bigger news. Elliot is moving, and Rebecca said, to Chicago. He is waiving visitation, says the distance makes it impractical. Maggie sat very still, processing. Elliot was leaving, choosing his career over any relationship with Charlotte. How do you feel? Rebecca asked. Relieved, Maggie admitted. Is that terrible? No, it is honest. Elliot left 1 month later. No goodbye, no final visit, just notification through lawyers. He is gone, Maggie told Patricia. Really gone. Good. Month 6 brought Charlotte's half-birthday, sitting up, starting solids, laughing constantly. A happy baby who knew nothing of darkness. Maggie threw a small party. Just family, cake and photos. That night, holding Charlotte, Maggie whispered, You gave me a reason. To fight, to leave, to survive. You were the answer before I knew the question. The future still felt uncertain, full of challenges, but for the first time, Maggie felt hopeful, felt capable, felt free. Not perfectly healed, but moving toward it, one day at a time, one choice at a time, building a life worth living. For both of them, 1 year after the hotel room, 1 year after everything changed. Charlotte took her first steps, 80 steps from the couch to Maggie's waiting arms, then falling, laughing, trying again. Patricia applauded, Ryan filmed, Julia cheered. 12 months of healing, of growth, of becoming. Charlotte was thriving, and Maggie was different too. Stronger, calmer, learning to live without looking over her shoulder. The phone rang, Rebecca calling. Elliot wants to terminate his parental rights, Rebecca said. Completely? Permanently. He is getting remarried, wants no legal connection to Charlotte. Maggie absorbed this. Can he do that? If you agree, the court must approve. What happens to child support? It becomes voluntary, not court-mandated. I want guaranteed support through age 18, written into the termination agreement, with penalties if he stops. I can negotiate that. And therapy coverage for Charlotte, forever, in writing. Agreed. Then yes, he can terminate his rights, walk away, be done with us forever. The termination was finalized 3 weeks later. Judge Matthews presiding, Elliot signed via video conference. Looking older, tired, a stranger. Do you understand this is permanent? Judge Matthews asked. I understand. Very well. The order is signed. Maggie walked out into sunshine, holding Charlotte. It was over. Really over. At home, Maggie started a journal for Charlotte. For later. For when she asked questions. Dear Charlotte, today your biological father gave up his parental rights. I want you to know the truth. Not to hurt you, but so you understand love and biology are different things. She wrote for an hour, explaining abuse carefully, honestly. I left because I loved you. Your father was not capable of being safe. That is not your fault. You are surrounded by people who chose to love you. We are your family, by choice, by love. You may be angry someday. That is okay. Ask all your questions. I will always tell the truth. Every choice I made was to protect you, to give you life free from fear. Charlotte's first birthday party came in September. Big celebration. Cake and presents and joy. Maggie watched Charlotte's face light up. This is what I fought for. This happiness, this freedom. The article's anniversary brought media attention. Patricia Reed wanted a follow-up. How are you? Reed asked at their meeting. Better, not healed, but better. What does better look like? I sleep through the night. I do not check locks obsessively. I can imagine a future beyond surviving. Message for other women? It gets better, but it is hard. Leaving is terrifying. Starting over is exhausting. But being trapped is worse. You deserve safety. You deserve love that does not hurt. Ask for help. Someone will listen. The article published 1 week later, the response overwhelming. Messages from women thanking her. Maggie agreed to speak at one domestic violence shelter. 30 women listened. I am not special, Maggie began. I just had the right moment, the right people. I took the chance when it presented. She told her story briefly. I stayed 2 years. I told myself all the lies. That he would change. That I provoked him. I'm not ashamed. Staying kept me alive long enough to find a way out. If you are here in this shelter, you already took the hardest step. You left. You survived. Everything else is logistics. After women approached, shared stories, sought advice. You got away from a man with everything, one young woman said. That gives me hope. You can, Maggie said firmly. You will. Keep going. Well, Charlotte's second year brought new milestones. More words, more personality. She was funny, stubborn, affectionate, smart, and there was no violence in her life, no fear, just childhood, pure and safe. Work expanded, Maggie built a reputation, made enough income that child support became extra rather than essential. I'm not depending on him anymore, she told Rebecca proudly. I can support us myself. That is real independence. 18 months after leaving, Michelle Bradford called. I wanted to thank you. Because of you, I told my parents the truth about Elliot. They believed me. I went back to therapy. I am getting better. That is incredible. You inspired that. 2 years after the hotel room, Maggie stood packing boxes, moving to a bigger apartment, 2 bedrooms, afforded by her own work. Moving up, Ryan teased. Moving forward, Maggie corrected. The new apartment was across town, away from trauma markers, a fresh start. Charlotte loved it immediately, running room to room, laughing. Bigger, she announced. Yes, baby, more room to grow. That night, Maggie stood at Charlotte's crib, watching her sleep. 2 years old, healthy, happy, safe. You made it. We survived, and now we are living. Really living. Maggie thought about who she had been 2 years ago. That woman felt like a stranger. Someone from before. This was after, where she was strong, free, where Charlotte knew only love, where both knew safety was not negotiable. The future held uncertainty, but Maggie was no longer afraid, no longer defined by what had been done to her. She was defined by what she survived, by what she built after, by the mother she became. Charlotte cried out softly. Maggie picked her up, held her close. Mama here. Mama always here. Charlotte settled, trusting completely. Maggie made a silent promise. You will grow up knowing your worth, knowing love does not hurt. You will never doubt you are wanted. You will never accept less than you deserve. If you ask about your father, I will tell you truth, that I left to protect you, that the people who stayed, who chose us, they are your real family. You are my greatest achievement, Charlotte, not escaping him, but protecting you, raising you, giving you this life, this freedom. Charlotte's hand gripped Maggie's finger. Connected, bonded, safe, Maggie knew she had done it, had survived, had broken the cycle, had given Charlotte everything she herself was denied. That was victory, not revenge, not traditional justice, just freedom for both of them. Finally, fully, forever. The belt-whipping CEO and his pregnant wife. That was the beginning, the trauma, the violence, but not the ending. The ending was this. Mother and daughter in a new apartment, starting fresh, living freely, loving deeply, together, safe, home, not perfect, not fairy tale, but real, earned, theirs. And Maggie Sullivan, 2 years after the worst night of her life, finally believed in her own happy ending. That was more than enough. Margaret's story, Margaret's story did not end in that hotel room. It began there. Because speaking up was just the first step, surviving, rebuilding, becoming herself again. That took 2 years of courage, one day at a time. If this story moved you, I have a small request. Hit that like button. Not for me, but because YouTube's algorithm will show this story to more people who might need to hear it, to someone who feels trapped right now, to someone who thinks they are alone, to someone who needs proof that escape is possible. Drop a comment below. Tell me what moment hit you hardest. Share your thoughts, your own story if you feel safe doing so. This community supports survivors. We believe you. We stand with you. Share this video with someone who needs hope. Maybe your sister, your best friend, your coworker who always has new bruises with convenient explanations. Sometimes one story is all it takes to plant the seed that change is possible. And subscribe to this channel. Because Margaret's story is not unique. There are thousands of stories like hers. Stories of survival, stories of justice, stories of women and men who refuse to stay silent. I share them here. Real stories, real courage, real hope. Remember, if you are in danger right now, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-79-97233. You deserve safety. You deserve love that does not hurt. You deserve better. Thank you for listening to Margaret's story, for witnessing her courage, for being part of the community that refuses to look away. I will see you in the next story. Stay strong, stay safe, and know that you are never as alone as you feel.